Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this Blitz chess postmortem. This is a postmortem of my Blitz chess game number 178. I was white here, kicked off with d4, and my opponent played the interesting Dutch defense. You can see that's the fifth most popular choice in this opening database, knight f6, leading to Nimzo Indian or King's Indian or Queen's Indian, d5, traditional center response, and other moves are e6 and d6. So f5, number 5 in choice popularity, but an interesting way to play, and see this played by black players who want a very dynamic and unbalanced game. So we're playing the normal moves here. Knight f6. If we back up, yeah, I didn't know g3 was the normal move for a while. I used to always play c4, which is a move too. You can see they're all good, but apparently g3 is considered to be the best here. So knight f6 and bishop g2. Of course, you'll get into standard lines that your opponent may be familiar with if you're not. Now g6 here is the Leningrad Dutch, and that's the most common way to play in this database, but e6 is a respectable way to play. And if he later plays d5, then it becomes a Stonewall Dutch, but so far this is just a Dutch defense. Okay, so knight f3, and then he throws in bishop b4 check, which is a bit unusual. So bishop e7 is a normal way of continuing, just like after g6, bishop g7 is played. So there's the two kind of setups that black can have here. Also d5 here going for the Stonewall. So bishop b4 is a bit of an offshoot of the main line, a side line. And then he just retreats the bishop to a5 instead of going back to e7. So at this point we're out of the book. We'll just look at the notation tab. White has the usual opening advantage, maybe a little better after bishop a5. It's not a particularly great square for the bishop, but games don't win themselves. You still have to play. So I'm just doing the normal moves, castling, developing my bishop. He castles, get my knight out, and queen e8. It's an interesting move, and yeah, there's a sudden jump in the evaluation. So I have some it likes white here, I guess, quite a bit more than the usual opening advantage. Maybe because this bishop here is a little bit out of play and can be exchanged off at any time, giving white the bishop pair. So yeah, probably bishop a4 was just not a great place to put that bishop. Okay, but after queen e8, suddenly the evaluation swings, and it says the way to get the most with white is to play knight f to e5. And I didn't really think about this, and I'm not sure even now why this is such a great move. So knight f e5. Of course, I am castled, and all my pieces are developed except for the rooks. So I mean, it is well within the bounds to start moving my pieces around and trying to find good squares, and this is a good square. Question is there some tactical point here? So bishop b6, knight e4. Let's say he plays the more aggressive knight e4. Then bishop e3, just retreating, keeping the bishop pair. Now bishop b6 or d5. Say he plays d5. Now finally knight takes c6. D takes c4, and knight takes a5, and aren't I winning a piece? And queen b5. So that did not seem very convincing to me somehow. It seemed like black was giving up a piece, and I'm not sure why. So suppose let's try something different. After knight fe5, suppose he just takes it. Is there? Oh, he can't take it. Aha. Okay, so that's one point. The knight is a bit overworked. The knight's defending the bishop, and it's defending, and it wants to trade off this knight here, which is going to be an annoying piece. So, so instead of knight e4, bishop b6 is the other recommended try, getting this bishop to a place where it's secure. And now it is possible to trade off the knight. So, knight takes b6. Okay, so grab the bishop, cb. And then knight to c4, going after this weak pawn. So the pawn could be defended. Okay, so one point with that move queen e8 is it's no longer on this diagonal, so this pawn is subject to a tempo gain. So suppose he tries to hold the pawn, Then knight to b6. Okay, and you're getting into this great square here. And let's see, the other way to try and hold the pawn is to play the queen back to d8. Of course, you know you've made a mistake if you have to move your piece back where you just moved it away from. Then white can play d5 and try and bust through the center here. I guess taking is not good because it'll leave him with these isolated pawns here. So he tries knight to e7, say. And queen to d4. Putting more pressure on this guy. So that's pretty interesting. Okay, so that's a little bit deep. Not the sort of thing you would spot in a Blitz game, but maybe if you spent some time thinking about it, you might come up with it. Also, it's sort of a natural move, just knight fe5. You might play that just because it looks like the move to play. I was thinking about trading this bishop off, and then I thought, well, if I play this move b4 first, it'll force the bishop back to a square where he has to take and double his pawns. But now, if I try knight e5, the difference here is that his knight can just take it. So that's the advantage of playing knight e5 first rather than playing what I did. So it cost me a move, this b5 move. And it's not clear that I get any mileage on the queen side. I thought I was going to get something out of it, but it never quite materialized. So he plays rook b1. No, it's white. I play rook b1. I wanted to play b5, and so I'm playing rook b1 to support it. And my opponent plays b5 here to stop me. So that's good strategy. Stop your opponent's plans. And so I continue on with my plan, but because now I'm thinking I can trade here and then move my queen to d3 and attack these weak pawns over here, but he just takes. And this is okay. So we're back to the range of the normal opening advantage. So I had a bit of an edge there for a while, and it somehow faded away because of not playing the most precise moves. Okay, so now he plays knight e4, getting out of that pin and attacking my bishop. And the engine's recommending what? Queen c2, b3, just getting the queen out of here. I play rook f to c1. Oh yeah, because this pawn is, cancel that. This pawn is not defended, and it's attacked by the knight. So the knight here is attacking the bishop and the pawn. It's a bit of a fork, but the bishop is defended, so I defend the pawn. And he takes the bishop. I take back. And then he plays h6, kicking my knight immediately. And I just go back to f3. Interesting would be to play knight h3. I guess the idea with that is you could go here and then maybe reroute to f4 and look at this weak square here on g3. Okay, I went this way. You can still get to g3 through this route, but his knight is acting as a sentry over here on that square, on the e5 square. Okay, so and once again I'm now thinking that I have a moment to play the move b5. He throws in the move b5 and stops me once again. So I put my queen on this diagonal looking at my opponent's king, and he plays rook b8. And I push on with d5, just trying to bust up the center. I think I am just better developed here than my opponent. My rooks are out. My queen is out. So I just kind of want to bust up his center and maybe open some lines to his king. His bishop is a bit backwards. This is his bad piece here. So rather than trade, he retreats the knight, probably a good choice. And then the engine says I should go on with d takes e6. So I wanted to look at this too. If I play de, I thought he might just take with the knight. Yeah, either queen takes or knight takes or pawn takes are all playable. I mean, I was thinking the knight because you want to get the this piece back into the game. It does leave him with some isolated pawns. I didn't factor that into account. And so it says I can play e3. Okay, this is a weakness here. And then also rook d1, just going after this pawn. So the other way to play would be pawn takes. And then it says I can play knight e5. Get a good outpost for my knight. So okay, that's a decent way to play. It's not immediately winning, but it's an improvement. I played knight e5 immediately, which is not quite as good, and allows him to start going after this pawn. Now, once again, I should just take her, and it seems to be even stronger now. So why, what is it? It's recommending d6, which he eventually has this idea. If he just moves a pawn here and kicks my knight away, that's why I should take first before doing the knight maneuver. Okay. But I did knight e5, he did bishop b7, and now if I take again, what are his choices? D takes, knight takes. Queen takes is no longer any good, apparently. That's interesting. Queen takes and knight takes d7. Undermines the queen. Oh, and it forks these two. That's a neat trick. I'm glad I followed that line. Yeah, so knight takes d7 is forking these two pieces, forking the two rooks. The queen can't take the knight because the queen is pinned. And so there's a trade of queens, take back, and there's still this fork on the rook, so you're going to win the exchange here at least. So that's kind of cool. So yeah, I didn't see that. That's something you should spot. So he can't take with the queen, so if he takes, let's see, d takes e6, takes with the pawn is best. And then rook d1, getting on an open file. Exchange of bishops. And rook to c8. And rook to a1. So going after the weak pawns. And thinks that white's significantly better. It's interesting. I mean, we both have these pawn weaknesses. He has one here, I have one here. I have the better knight. I guess that's worth something. But you would think he would be able to trade it off. Yeah, knight c6 is a recommended move there. And it's hard to see if my advantage will really be permanent here. But maybe I have a better rook here too on an open file. So that would be the best way to play there. c4 I played. And now c4 was a blunder. I was thinking to shore up this pawn here, but he can just take it, exposing an attack on my knight. And so the engine recommends queen b2 or queen c3. I was thinking queen c3 here to defend it. Yeah, so that's starting here. Knight e5. Why can't he play this move immediately? Because I can take on d5 with check. Okay, so I was just missing the hanging knight theme here. And there's a tactical defense. So if the knight on e5, if he takes a pawn and tries to attack my knight, I can take his pawn with check and defend my knight. So that's still true here. He played bishop b7. I played c4. And after c4, it's no longer true. Now he can take this pawn, and he's just a pawn up here because I have to do something to save my knight. And, okay, too bad. Yeah, I completely missed that. So, and he missed it too, fortunately for me. And he played b takes c4, taking that way. And now I take with the queen. And once again, I have this, is that true? No, he could play e takes d5 here, with the double attack on my queen and my knight. But, oh yeah, okay, so I still have bishop takes d5 check. So the check here always saves me. So b takes c4, queen takes c4. He played d6 here, kicking my knight. And so finally my knight is chased out of that good square, which it was not well supported there anyway. Retreat. Oh, and I play forward with the knight to c6. But here, here's where I missed my chance. Queen c7. So just ignoring the threat to my knight for a moment. Suppose he takes the knight. Then queen takes b8. Oh, the rook is hanging. It's funny. You don't always spot these things because rooks on the back rank are usually safe. They're defended by other pieces on the back rank. A queen and the rook are there, but there's this knight interfering with the queen and the rook's defense of the rook over here. So queen c7 threatens the rook. He's got to defend it. So it's recommending rook a8. And then queen takes d6. And he's no longer threatening the knight. and you've got a good position here in the center. Okay, cool. So after d6, I just retreated my knight. No, I brought my knight forward. I didn't retreat it. I brought it forward to this post. And is this the point? Maybe it's not yet. There was some point here where I calculated a sequence. Right here. Yeah, okay. So I figured he might take, and I thought I would have a good position here because he would just move his bishop. But he throws in the move bishop to d5, hitting my queen. And so here's the point where I miscalculated. So I should just play queen c5 and keep my advantage. So queen c5. It's just a good square for the queen, gets it out of take, and now he really has to move his bishop. So I've got all the advantages I had before in the position. I've just got better pieces. He's got, an interesting pawn structure in the center, but right now it's getting in the way of his bishop. So that's what my edge is, and that's the way to play this. Instead, I calculated this tactical sequence from this position where I figured I would take here, he would take back, and I would take with check, and then I would win his bishop. And so I lose a bishop, I win 2 pawns, and then I win a bishop. So I was thinking, well, I would just be 2 pawns up after that. But watch what happens in the game. This is why you have to think ahead a little bit further sometimes. So it went as I predicted. Bishop takes, pawn takes, queen takes with check. He blocks with the queen. So now if I just move my queen away, he has time to save his bishop. So I have to trade queens. He takes with the rook, and now I grab the bishop. So it's happened the way I predicted. I'm 2 pawns up, but it turns out I can't keep these pawns. And in fact, I've gone from a winning position to one which is very drawish. So that's, if we back up to the position where I made the decision, that's the kind of thing I had to think of right here before playing bishop takes d5. I had to see ahead far enough that these trades would occur, that he would force an exchange of queens, and that after that he can just scoop up these pawns that I had won. So my advantage in pawns is very temporary. He gets this 1 pawn back immediately, and I can't even defend the 2nd pawn. So my 2-pawn advantage has disappeared almost instantly. So rook c6, trying to counterattack his pawn. a5. And by now, so the best way to keep an advantage here would have been to attack the pawn from the front. Rook a1, rook takes. I thought after rook a1, hang on a second. I thought after rook a1, instead of taking on b4, he defend. And he'd be in kind of this static position. Then I could play rook c7. Okay, so a slightly better way to play. So I counterattack his pawn, but from the side, and now he just plays a5. I didn't see that move. I can't take it because my pawn is pinned. So, and if I come behind, he'll take my pawn. So I advance. Let's see. Does the engine have anything to say about it? Yeah, b5 is one of the main moves there, or rook b3. Just no way to hold it. b5. So he takes, and then I take, and then I get behind his pawn. And he gets in front of the pawn. So now we get into this endgame, which is drawn, but black is going to press for a win because he has the outside pass pawn. But with best play, this is a draw. So we back up here. It often happens this way in the game. I mean, black does not want his rook in front of the pawn. He would really like his rook to be behind the pawn so he can push it all the way down. His rook is going to be in the way when the pawn gets down here. But you find over and over again it happens. Your rook, just because of the way the game plays out, your rook always ends up in front of the pawn. You need to defend it somehow. And since my rook was already behind the pawn, his only way to defend it was either on the side or from in front. And if the rook was on the side, he wouldn't be able to move his pawn at all. At least with the rook in front, he can move the pawn forward. So let's watch how the game goes. And it stays even here for quite a while. And it really should be. So it gave me a slight edge here with king f4. Now that's interesting. So I guess I have the ability to get my king active at this one particular point. And the thing is, king f4, if he comes here to attack my f-pawn, which is sometimes a counter tactic, he can take here with check, and I grab here first and defend the f-pawn. So it's very important that the f-pawn, which he can attack, is on the 2nd rank there, the same as his pawn. and so I can press a little bit here. Although this is one of those 4 pawns against 3 is technically a draw, but not necessarily easy to draw. So you can play on. I think Magnus Carlsen won a game like that once. Okay, so I just played my king back to g2. I didn't think of that at this point. He plays g5. We exchange some pawns, and I'm just moving back and forth. It's important to note that I can never go forward. For example, here I'll just do this here. It's he did king f8. So suppose I had started to walk over towards his pawn, and he does nothing, and I just walk here, and yeah, already he can win with this move, rook f1. And now the problem is when I take the pawn, he takes here with check. So my king being on the second rank is a big problem. So I can never go over to get this pawn on the second rank. Now, if I try to move up to the third rank, then he also wins because he has this move, rook d1 check. And as I come over here, then he can queen, defending his rook, and he's going to be a whole rook up and win the game. So my king is stuck over here. That's an important point about this ending. And so I was just moving my king back and forth. So he played king f8, I played king g2. He went king g8, I went king f3. He went king f8, I went king g2. So what's interesting, yeah, when was the last time my king was on g2? Yeah, what's interesting is this move king g2 somehow is a problem. And so let's explore this. It says black can play the move g4 here. Okay, so with g4, that will prevent my king from coming back. So my king has got no moves. And the only thing I can move is the rook. So the rook has to stay on this file. So let's say it just stays here. And black starts walking his king over. Where's the king going? I'm just wondering if the computer has a plan here. The king is going to b3. I thought if the king came over to b3, I could just check the king. And this would still be a draw. So the king can then run over this way. If he keeps going back, I can keep checking. So his only way to make progress is to come this way. And king c4, king c2, say king c4. I just want to see what the idea is. So I would go back here behind the pawn. Does he have a way to make a breakthrough? King d5. King c6. Yeah, I'm not convinced. The engine gives black a score of minus 1.5, which in many circumstances would be a winning advantage. But unless there's a winning plan here, you know, how is this rook ever going to move? So I think even though my king has run out of moves, as long as my rook can stay on the a file, and if his king ever comes over to support his pawn and try and pass it and free up his rook, try and protect his pawn and free up his rook, then I can check his king. So I don't see how black can ever win this. King b6. Yeah, it just doesn't seem to be any particular plan here. And then whenever he goes there, I deliver the check. I can just come back here at this point. Yeah, so I don't see a win. So I think this is just a drawn position. So it's good. I explored that in some detail, but I think it's really important to have these basic king and pawn endings with the rook and pawn endings locked down so you can recognize these draws. So we agreed to a draw here. And this is a good try. If you can run the white king out of moves and somehow push one of these pawns through to distract the king, get him onto a bad square, then you have a chance of winning in a position like this, but I just don't think it's possible here. Okay, hope you guys enjoyed that. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and I'll see you again later. Bye.